The war had lasted 17 cycles, and Alpha Terran knew he was dying. His massive form, covered in the traditional battle scars of the Valerian species, slumped against the command console of his failing warship. Around him, the bridge crew, what remained of them, worked frantically to keep the vessel from tearing apart. The Krelll Armada had shattered their fleet, scattered their people across a dozen star systems, and now hunted the survivors with methodical cruelty. Terran's amber eyes fell upon the stasis pods in the corner of the bridge. Inside them, his 3 cubs slept peacefully, unaware that their world had burned. At barely 2 cycles old, Krelll and his siblings were too young to understand war, too innocent to carry the weight of their dying civilization. Commander Lyra's vessel is responding to our distress beacon, Alpha, his second officer reported, her voice trembling with both relief and resignation. They all knew the name Commander Lyra of the Terran Alliance, a human who had earned a reputation as both a fierce warrior and an unlikely protector of refugees. Humans were a strange species, newly emerged onto the galactic stage, neither physically imposing nor technologically superior. Yet they possessed something the galaxy had learned to respect, an inexplicable stubbornness that bordered on madness. "Open a channel," Terran commanded, his voice weakening with each word. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a woman with steel-gray eyes and short-cropped dark hair. Commander Lyra studied him with the calculating gaze of a predator. But when her eyes shifted to the stasis pods, something softened in her expression. "Alpha Terran," she said simply, "your fleet is gone. The Krelll will be here within the hour." "I know," Terran replied. "I have a request that defies protocol. Commander, my cubs. I need you to take them, raise them, and protect them." Silence stretched between them. In Valerian culture, entrusting one's offspring to another species was unthinkable. It was an admission of complete defeat, a surrender of bloodline and honor. "Why humans?" Lyra asked quietly. "Why me?" Terran managed a weak smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Because you are pack hunters who adopt strays. Because I have watched your species take the orphaned, the broken, the lost, and turn them into something formidable. Because the galaxy underestimates you, and that will keep my cubs alive long enough to become what they need to be." Commander Lyra remained silent for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Transfer the pods to my ship. I'll keep them safe." "No," he said, his voice suddenly fierce despite his failing strength. "Don't just keep them safe. Make them strong. Teach them to fight like humans fight, with cunning, with unity, and with that terrible refusal to surrender that makes your species so dangerous. When they are ready, they will reclaim what was taken from us." The transmission ended as Terran's ship began its final descent. Commander Lyra's crew retrieved the stasis pods moments before the Valerian vessel exploded in a brilliant flash, taking Alpha Terran and his loyal crew into the void. 15 cycles passed. Commander Lyra, now Admiral Lyra, stood on the observation deck of the Terran flagship Indomitable, watching the fleet assemble. Around her, representatives from 24 species waited nervously, their attention fixed on the hangar bay below. The Krelll Dominion had grown bold. After crushing the Valerians, they had turned their appetite towards smaller civilizations, consuming territory and enslaving populations. The galaxy had fractured into isolated pockets of resistance, each too weak to stand alone against the Krelll war machine. Until today, the hangar bay doors opened, and silence fell across the observation deck. Krelll walked out first, and the galaxy finally understood what humanity had created. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his Valerian physiology enhanced by 15 cycles of human training. But it wasn't his size that made the assembled representatives step back. It was his presence. He wore hybrid armor that blended Valerian combat tradition with human tactical design. Behind him marched his siblings, equally imposing, equally lethal. But they didn't march alone. Behind the 3 Valerian cubs came the Legion, 2,000 warriors from 100 different species, all bearing the insignia of the Terran Alliance. Humans, Valerians rescued from slavery, Krelll defectors, and dozens of other races that humanity had sheltered, trained, and united under a single purpose. Koro's voice echoed through the deck, speaking in perfect galactic common, with an accent that carried both Valerian tradition and human determination. 15 cycles ago, my father entrusted us to humanity, believing they could make us strong. He was wrong. The representatives shifted uncomfortably. Koro's amber eyes blazed. They didn't make us strong. They made us unstoppable. They taught us that strength isn't just in claws or weapons. It's in the bonds between warriors who fight for each other. It's in the refusal to abandon those who cannot defend themselves. It's in standing together when every rational calculation says you should run. He gestured toward the legion behind him. My father asked Commander Lyra to raise cubs. Instead, she raised a family. And families don't abandon each other. Admiral Lyra stepped forward, her weathered face bearing the scars of countless battles. The Krelll Dominion believes the galaxy is theirs to consume. They're about to learn what happens when you threaten humanity's pack. Koro raised his arm and the legion roared. Not just Valerian battle cries, but the war songs of a dozen species, unified by human stubbornness and compassion. The campaign that followed would be remembered for generations. The legion moved like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. Combining Valerian ferocity with human tactical ingenuity, they struck where the Krell were weakest, rescued enslaved populations, and welcomed them into their ranks. Every victory swelled their numbers. Every liberated world became another fortress. The Krell, accustomed to fighting scattered resistance, couldn't adapt to an enemy that thought like humans. Unpredictable, relentless, and utterly unwilling to accept defeat. In the final battle above the Krell homeworld, Koro stood beside Admiral Lyra on the bridge of the Indomitable. The Krell fleet outnumbered them 3-1, but the Legion had learned well from their human teachers. My father thought he was saving us, Koro said quietly, watching the enemy formations. He didn't realize he was giving humanity the chance to save the galaxy. Admiral Lyra smiled, her expression fierce and proud. He knew exactly what he was doing, Koro. He chose the one species crazy enough to turn 3 orphaned cubs into the leaders of a revolution. The battle was brutal and brilliant. The Legion fought with a level of coordination that seemed almost supernatural. Each species contributed its unique strengths to a force that was greater than the sum of its parts. When the Krell flagship finally fell, their dominion shattered with it. Standing amid the ruins of Krell Command, Koro raised the banner of the Legion, a symbol that combined the Valerian crest with the Terran Alliance insignia, surrounded by the emblems of every species that had joined their cause. Alpha Thurin had left his cubs in human care, hoping they might survive. Instead, they had returned, leading a legion that reminded the galaxy of a simple truth. Humans didn't just survive. They thrived. They protected. They built families from strangers. And they forged legends from the abandoned.